So now we find out what the Satanic Temple is. So starting with an introduction, it was founded a little over 2 years ago by Lucian Greaves and Malcolm Jerry, and the idea behind it was to have not just an activist organization, but an actual religion. And it would be a religion completely divorced from supernaturalism and even opposed to supernaturalism, because the idea is that religion at its essence is sincere, deeply held belief. And we all have our sincere, deeply held beliefs, whether that be in the philosophy of skepticism, or feminism, for example, or anything you can think of. Our secular values are important to us just as much as religious people's supernatural ideas are to them. And we need to have equal treatment in the government. So they shouldn't be able to just say, well, it's my religion, and trump secular values. So we can have our religion too, which is simply sincere, deeply held belief, and there doesn't need to be any supernatural component to it. We're completely against that, and that's the primary idea that they were going with. Now, getting on to the philosophy, I've been calling this modern Satanism. There's somebody that does a podcast that's called Modern Satanism, and that, is maybe part of it, but also because it's very, very much like a left-hand path version of modern humanism. If you notice, most of the things are like modern humanism, mostly of the secular humanist division of that, but there's a little bit of the well, they call it religious humanism, but there's no supernatural stuff in that. There's just some ritual and stuff added to that, which is completely optional, not something I'm into. But so it's kind of like the larger category of modern humanism. The morality of it is exactly the same, really. I'm going to try and not get into this too much, because this can get long, drawn out, and boring. The basis of morality, or meta-ethics as it's called, is well, it's completely subjective, really. There's no actual moral source that you can point to. A lot of times religions will have some sort of a deity, some codified set of law given to us by divine fiat or what have you. But there is no such thing. There's no evidence to support that. So I start with kind of a nihilistic view of morality. So you have to have something to base your normative values on. And the basis for those is technically subjective, but can be treated as if it were objective. It's the evolution of our species as a social species, and you can see what we call a conscience in the behaviors that go along with that. There's been a number of studies of previous social species that exhibit some of those behaviors too. So ours is kind of just more of the latest, most sophisticated version of it. But you can see the same behaviors in chimps or rats or even in ants to at least some extent. And that's those feelings are what we can actually base a sort of morality on, because it's something that we all agree on for the most part. I mean, there's always going to be some small things that are kind of a matter of opinion, but mostly we can agree on it. Now, in addition to just those feelings, which can be treated as a sort of virtual objective basis on, just because of agreement, you can also apply logic to it and look at empirical evidence and get some guidance on what to think about those moral feelings and how you should act and all that sort of thing. Now there can be situations where it gets corrupted. Religion, for example, where people ignore those sorts of feelings, ignore logic and reason, and they believe something even though there's no reason to do so other than they were just told to.
I did interrupt. I'll lose train of thought if I know. The ability to have empathy in general. Empathy, I've always assumed that you either have it or you don't. If you don't have it, I don't know that it's possible to maybe learn. So aside from having some core tenets and saying, this is a group where we're all getting together for a commonality and a common reason, and we share some things that are good to have maybe written down. If you don't value someone else's actions naturally as part of just your programming, do you feel like there's any way to push for that other than just like a rule structure for the group? Like if you don't adhere to the same levels of empathy about certain issues, you're out, kind of thing, or I'm trying to see because
maybe to a certain extent, because we definitely, there are definitely some behaviors that we don't condone and find unacceptable, and there's definitely reasons for that, and that's based on concepts like empathy, compassion, social justice, reason. So there's reasons for having that. Like bodily autonomy, for example, we believe in that because everybody wants to have control of their own body, and that's a pretty common thing. So I think based on our conscience, so to speak, we can have a sort of objective-like basis for our moral values, and that's definitely how it works in humanism as well. So then, in addition to the moral aspect of this, skepticism is also part of this. So most religions are the opposite of skepticism, but we are religiously opposed to supernaturalism and believe in skepticism. So reason and empirical evidence should be the only source of objective knowledge. Anything that comes from the mind is made up. It can be subjective. It can be false. But it doesn't have anything to do with objective fact. So that's a big part of what we believe as well. Now, moving on to the left-hand path part of it. Left-hand path versus right-hand path is, right-hand path is kind of like joining with the one, kind of your more traditional religion. Left-hand path is about individualism. It's about discovery of the self, fulfillment of the self, that sort of thing. And then Satanism specifically, even though there's a lot of variations, the core of it is actually being a religion of opposition. So Satan just means adversary, and Satanism is an adversarial religion. It's about opposition. It's about rebellion, embracing your outcast status, and just accepting being an outsider, and any social conventions have to fit your ideals. You don't just accept a social convention because it is one, and you would have nothing but contempt for unjust. So it's very individualistic. Now, in addition to that, there are various traditions of Satan that can go along with that, and that accounts for the different variations. And for us, we have a literary Satan. So Satan is a metaphorical construct based on literary characters, and the characteristics of the Satan character in different pieces of literature represent some of the values and ideals that we have. We draw upon, maybe a little bit from the Christian Bible, certain stories of that Satan character. Also, Paradise Lost by Milton, and Revolt of the Angels by Anatole France, and a few others as well. And in that, the Satan character is very much a rebel. Doesn't believe in the suppression of knowledge. Wants everybody to have the same access to knowledge. So Satan in that way stands for a lot of things that we're doing, especially the activism part of this, because the activism comes from our belief in rebellion. We have certain ideals that we believe in, such as empathy, compassion, social justice, reason, logic, empirical evidence, and we rebel against anything antithetical to those concepts. So that's what Satan stands for. So when we say "Hail Satan," it doesn't mean an actual being. It means hail to our ideals, ourselves, our ideals, what we believe in. It's just an affirmation of that.